What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Super pumped to introduce our next guest to you today. He brings more than 30 years of professional problem solving to his hypnotherapy and coaching practice, and he believes in anyone's ability to change their story so that they can actually achieve success. And one of his mantras is, "We are nothing more than the stories we tell about who we are." We are literally the embodiment of that story. And if you change your story, you can change what you believe about who you are and what you deserve, and you will create a new life experience. That's amazing. He's also the lead facilitator and trainer with the Certified Life Coach Institute, sharing his skills and experience with the next generation of life coaches. He's the co-author of 2 Amazon bestsellers, Practical Manifesting and A Pessimist's Guide to Manifesting. And he also just recently published his 3rd book called My 2-Minute Journal, which immediately became an Amazon #1 new release. Awesome, man. Congratulations. On top of that, he's been recognized by feedspot.com, Lost Empire Herbs, Expertito, as one of the top 100 hypnotherapist blogs in the world. And in 2018, he was recognized by the Daily Breeze as South Bay's favorite in hypnosis and life coaching. He's also been honored by being called the best hypnotherapist in South Bay by readers of the Daily Breeze. And he's the president of the Long Beach, California chapter of Holistic Chamber of Commerce. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Daniel Olexa.
Hey, Corey. Hey, Nathan.
Welcome. I'm super excited.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come onto the show. We can't wait to dive into your story and some of the wisdom that you've picked up along the way. So definitely appreciate you being here, man.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So we were kind of talking before we got on, and you were doing some really cool stuff in the hypnosis space, as well as just kind of helping people spiritually along their journey. And I wanted to go back into really like the conception of all of this, like how did you get on this track and really becoming an entrepreneur in this world? Is this something you've always wanted to do, or did this kind of happen along the way?
A little bit of both. So on the hypnosis side of it, I've always had an interest in the power of the mind, and also into what I'll call the spooky woo-woo weird stuff that just has always driven me since I was 4 or 5 years old. The entrepreneur side didn't really happen. It was an idea out there for me through my 20s, through my 30s. And, going back to that idea of what the story we tell about ourselves, I was telling myself the story of I'm just somebody who works for somebody else, and I'll climb the ladder and all of that. As it came around, I spent 25 plus years working in sales and marketing, and the last 15 years of that run, I had worked for 3 different family-owned companies, and I had the wrong last name at every one of them. And it came to that moment. It just came to that moment. I burned out. I was done. I remember the day we were late on a delivery, and when I was given that news, my hands started shaking at my desk, and I couldn't stop it. And I packed my desk, I packed my office, and I walked out. And I felt so free that weekend, because it just happened to happen on a Friday, which was great. Feel amazing that weekend. I'm not even worried about the mortgage or anything else. Like, I'm free. Monday came, had talked with the owners. They're like, "So you plan on coming back or not?" I'm like, "We can have a conversation about that." I wound up going back to that business because reality set in. Like, you do have a mortgage to pay. So I went from this very heart-spaced, get out of here, to okay, go back, but go back in a different way because you're in control now. Okay. And that's when I really started to engineer forward. And during that time, I was reading 2 different books, very, very separate. One was over my shoulder here, Isaiah Hankel's Black Hole Focus. And the other is Blue Zones, about the 4 or 5 areas in the world where people live to be over 100 and super healthy. And in one of the things they found in Blue Zones comes out of Okinawa, which is one of the Blue Zones, this concept called Ikigai, which is the Okinawans do not have a word for retirement in their language, but they do have a word that roughly translates to the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. And that whole thing of living with purpose. So I started asking myself, why am I going to this place where I don't respect them, they've lost respect for me. We're just showing up. We're like an old married couple that just deals with each other. And it took 3 weeks of asking myself that question every day. The first one, the obvious answer is always, you have a mortgage. You got bills to pay. You got to eat. Man, it's not, I wasn't feeling it. And about 3 weeks in, I get a phone call from a client one day, and they say, we need you to come over this afternoon. We just had this hot project drop in our laps. We're not sure. We kind of know what we want to do. We don't know quite how to get there, but we know you will. And when I hung up the phone, like that cartoon light bulb was over my head, and I could feel it in my core. Like, I love negotiating through problem solving, and I love empowering other people. So then it was like, where do I take that? And initially it led me into hypnotherapy in a very serious shut up and take my money moment. That was obvious that was where I was supposed to go. And then I branched out into coaching a couple of years later, when I realized that half the population has a fear and misconception of what hypnosis is all about.
Huh.
Mhm.
Very interesting, man. So, okay, real quick,
Mhm.
you talked about how the light bulb went off, right? And so you said it was basically a combination of negotiating, problem solving, and then getting results for people. I'm sorry, was that what it was? The second part?
Empowering other people.
Empowering other people. Yeah. I love that. And then, okay, so that obviously translated into, like you said, the what gets me out of bed. But what was the shut up and take my moment experience that confirmed that this is where you were supposed to be?
So my current wife and I, we met when we both lived in Kansas City, and we were at the point where we're kind of engineering our life forward. We're both scuba divers. We're both scuba diving instructors, and we're
Oh,
thinking,
wow.
why are we living in the middle of the country where there's the closest water is a lake 4 hours away?
Yeah.
And she's a native Californian. Kansas City winters were no bueno for her. So she's like, I got to get out of here. So we started looking at where would we want to live in the world. And as a kind of Florida jumped on the map at the last minute. We were looking desert Southwest California, and we wound up moving to Naples, Florida. And as I'm going through this whole thing of what do I do when I grow up? What's my next phase? We're talking it over, and I had just finished working with a hypnotherapist in Kansas City to kind of get my mojo back after going through all this stuff with the business and some other major life changes. And that may have been why it was top of mind. Don't know, may have been. And I started saying, maybe this is kind of what I'm thinking. Well, I think I want to explore hypnotherapy. And as we're driving her down for the first leg of the trip, she's like, well, check it out. We get to Nashville that night. I jump online to research hypnotherapy training in Florida. At the time, there was one school teaching a state certified 500-hour program with campuses in Tampa, St. Pete, Orlando, Miami, Lauderdale, and Naples. All the major cities, and this town with 20,000 people in the summer.
Right.
It's like, okay.
I can see the signs.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, fine. Just here's the money. Let's go.
That's
Well,
awesome.
but then as rising entrepreneurs, right? That's how it happens for a lot of us. Is you get into something that changes your life in one way or another. You got your mojo back, whatever that means. Like to go through something that's just transformational, right? You get your mojo back. You're like, this thing changed my life in this way that was powerful, and it sets you on a lifelong journey, and that's how it happens. And then you go, and then so it's interesting, right? Because you weren't necessarily an entrepreneur per se, but now you've stepped into this thing that is what you have to do. And I think there's another interesting lesson in there for rising entrepreneurs too, is that you knew that hypnosis was the transformational thing that's changing your life, that's changing people's lives. But people have a hang up, and I know because I worked with a hypnotist, and people have a hang up of what it means to be hypnotized and like a suggestive state and all this. So sometimes we have the thing that people need, but they don't want to buy the thing they need. So you got to figure out how to sell the thing they want so you can deliver the thing they need and actually change their life. And I think that's just really that you found that. You're like, well, people aren't really digging hypnotists, but I'm going to be a life coach because this is starting to this is becoming acceptable. Woo-woo, in the woo-woo world, so much from 20 years ago, Reiki used to be illegal because touch therapy, and you couldn't, in certain states, you couldn't touch people in healing. And so like woo-woo's become less woo-woo, but you have to jump on the train that allows you to deliver that thing that works. And you found that. And I think rising entrepreneurs, we need to look for that in our business as well. So I just want to bring those 2 points to the table.
And that's a great point. And I talk to my coaching students when I teach about this exact thing, that people don't buy what you do. They're not buying hypnosis. They're not buying life coaching. They're buying what it does for their life. They're buying the transformation on the other side of the work, because
Mhm.
nobody wants to do that 4-letter word known as work. They just want to be here. So I noticed, like, I'm a member of the Redondo Beach Chamber of Commerce, and I specifically wanted to be a member of that because of the woo-woo aspect of, oh, he's spooky, he's going to make me dance like a chicken. No, I don't do that crap. I wanted a very grounded business presence on my page. And what I noticed early on as I was stumbling through, kind of finding my way, if I stood up at that meeting and did my elevator pitch and said, hi, my name's Dan Olexa, I'm a hypnotherapist, blah, 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 tune out.
Mm-hmm.
When I shifted and said, hi, my name's Dan Olexa, I work with business owners and sales reps to help them overcome their blocks to success and have a 6-figure income, 5 people would come up to me after that meeting. So do not talk about what you do. Talk about how it changes your client's life. Because then we can talk about, I'm a hypnotherapist, once they meet me and realize that I'm a cool guy and I don't have like a really sneaky mustache and I'm going to make them dance like chickens.
You're the watch and you're ready to pull out at any moment.
That's a really good point, man. Yeah, I love the way you framed it too. You know, it's simple though for us to want to talk about what we do, right? Because that's what we got into. That's what we're doing. That's what we're excited about. But you really, it's such a good thing that you said. Like, you have to remember the people that you're trying to help, they're not where you are, right? They don't know the things that you know about what it is that what you do can do for them. And that's what you have to explain to them. And you know, this is something that Nathan and I work a lot with on, you know, with our clients, is helping them communicate that value and that transformation, right, that your service or product does for your people. So I love what you said there, man. And it's important for people to really understand that correlation.
When I'm gonna jump back into your story in just a second, but that's the other thing that shoot, no, it wasn't, because that's total brain fart. What I had something and it's gone, and it'll come back if it comes back.
Almost spit the coffee on that one.
Yeah, no, that happens around here, so it's okay.
Corey, I told Corey, like, Corey will be like, sometimes I'll get lost. I'll be in the middle of the best point, and then it'll just poof, and I'm like, sorry, it's gone.
I got to wrangle him in. I got to wrangle him in every once in a while, but that's all right. No, it's good, man. So actually,
that's what I was gonna say. Sorry, but it came back, and I just said real quick.
Go ahead.
Is the story though? What we're trying to teach, the thing that we do, because we went through this experience that made us believe this is the thing that you need. And so we tell them about the thing that we do. But you're right. You tell them about the experience they can have. And when they wonder how it happened, you tell them about the experience you had. And so when you went from burnt out, working with family companies and having the last name, if you've ever worked for a family company that wasn't yours, you know that feeling. And you know the feeling of putting your everything into something that's not yours. And real quick, you have that day where you realize this isn't mine. And they're not, and then you had this thing that gave you your life back. When you go through the experience that you had, then I know the value of this thing that you did. And so that's where you can talk about what you do, is the experience you had that led you to it. So you can pick them up where they are and take them to where you are. So that's kind of the tactical execution of that. But anyway, let's dig back into your story. So you're helping. Okay, so Corey, you want to pick it up?
Corey, you just brought something to my mind that really, this was light bulb for me. Just thank you for saying what you just said. And again, it goes to story. I spent 15 years working for 3 different family-owned companies where I had the wrong last name. As you were saying, it just hit me. I'm working for my family-owned company right now where I have the right last name. It's mine. And all the entrepreneurs out there listening to this, that could be a powerful reframe for you guys, that yes, you are entrepreneurs. This is your family-owned company.
I love that. And that definitely, that empowers you as well to be able to go through all of the hard, the hard things that you're going to have to do to build your own business. When you understand exactly, like you just said, this is mine and this is why we're building it. That is really powerful. Interesting.
Yeah,
I never thought about it in that way until you said what you said, Nathan.
That's so cool.
That's why I got him around. That's why I keep him around.
He gets a paycheck this week.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, man, we have a pretty cool segment that we've just brought into the podcast, and this was all Nathan's brainchild as well. So if you want to go ahead and pick it up, Nathan.
Yes. So this section is called Perils and Pearls. And so the concept is as a rising entrepreneur, you've traveled a broken road that no one else has traveled before. And so you've seen parts of this journey that we haven't seen. And along that, you've faced perils that we're going to face, and you've uncovered pearls of wisdom that we need to overcome these perils in our way that we haven't seen yet. And so the first part of it is, what is the biggest peril or that you've overcome in your rising entrepreneur journey?
Biggest one for me, I think, was navigating through the space of not feeling worthy, not believing that I could do it, and shifting that story. I remember making that transition from working for that last other family owned company, where I was making six figures.
Mm.
And when we left there and moved to Florida, even if I was not burned out in the industry, what I did there didn't exist in Naples. Naples, retirement community for the 1%. It's mostly service industry. So I went from making six figures down to making like 24 grand while I'm going through school, just something that kind of pays the bills. So I'm not completely hemorrhaging my 401k. And I'm out walking my dogs one day, and this development of, you know, 500,000 to 1.5 million dollar homes making, and I'm earning, I've got this story in my head of, here you are, you don't deserve to be here. And I was really frustrated. Like, all the stuff, all the stories, all the crap was just coming up. And there was this moment, I'm looking around at all this new construction as I'm walking the two dogs. I was like, stop for a second. And this, it's going to sound really weird, but this other voice came in my head and said, you made this happen. You are the one who stepped into this, and you deserve to be here. It's this, what do you learn in this space? It was a coaching question before I ever got into coaching. It's like, you are the one who made the choices that brought you here, so you deserve to be here. And that's an important thing that we tend to compartmentalize into moments, particularly when we're in the present, in that moment of frustration, that, oh, I shouldn't be here, I don't deserve to be here. No, that's the question of, what do you ask on the other side? That becomes the pearl then, of how is this thing here in my life to shift me forward so I can continue evolving and growing to the person who can help even more and be my best self. But, oh, the imposter syndrome stuff that came up in that moment. And then, kind of got past that hurdle when we moved from Florida to California 4 years ago. I thought the transition was going to be easy because now I've established myself as my thing. Got to California, and I literally knew three people in the state when I got here: my wife, her mother, and her brother. And there was, as I, unpacked the house, I'm still like, wait a minute, where do I start? Because I had branded my business for Florida, so that company has to go away. And there's a metaphor of birth in there, because it was 9 months of schooling, opened the business for 3 months, and then I'm gone. That first 6 months here in California was brutal. I mean, I did the work every day, which was writing my book, rebuilding the website, doing all the back end stuff of getting the new business going. My heart was in it, but not with passion. It was like, I know I've got to lay this brick down today. But by doing it, within 6 months, I had written what became my second book, writing it 1 week at a time as 21 different entries on my website. And by adding that content every week to my website, I had leapfrogged to Google page one. If you researched hypnotherapy Redondo Beach, I jumped over practitioners that have been in business for years and decades, and now I'm number one because I just did the work. Even though there were days I didn't necessarily feel like doing it, I still did it. I'll admit, there were days that I ran a mile, and there were days I took 2 shuffling steps, but those 2 shuffling steps got me closer to the goal.
100%.
So that's interesting. So we start with the notable peril of imposter syndrome and not feeling worthy. That I can 100% and like 100% agree with and or understand, right? And as rising entrepreneurs, if you don't, let me just put it this way. If you've never felt imposter syndrome, you need to level up. Like, because if you're stuck somewhere, you're not going through the resistance you need to go through to become the next level of you so you can serve people at a higher level. Just throwing that out there. If you're like, I've never.
That's a good point.
So right. So I'm feeling that going through that. And the pearl of, you know, finding the perspective shift of you put yourself here, you belong here, whether it's the universe put you here for a reason, or everything happens for you, not to you, whatever mindset you need to step into the person you really are. Because when you feel like you're not worthy, there's a part of your brain that's going, you know, you're amazing and you deserve this and you are this. And then there's that other voice that's like, no, you're not. Remember the time you did this? Remember the time you didn't do that? Remember the time? And so who are you going to believe, right? Which voice? Because you have both. Which voice are you going to believe? And then you gave us a strategy of actually getting through it, which is shuffling through the thing, going through, like, so you get to California and you no longer you're no longer established. You're are you worthy in this new environment? You got people that have been established. You got the culture where in California, woo-woo's been accepted a lot longer, right? Especially than like Florida, right? So you went from like this whole other where it's hard to get in there and people respect you, but then you go to this place where there's lots of people who are established and doing it, and you got a new thing. And so am I worthy to be here? Am I worthy to be what I am here? And so you trudge through it some days and you run through it other days, and you go through the motions. And then when you come out when you do the things, you come out the other side and you see how worthy you've been the whole time. That sum it up, man, because that's the pearl. That's what I got out of it. I think that's awesome.
You are, like, it goes back to that idea where we started. You're the story you tell about yourself, and that successful you, for the entrepreneurs out there listening, that successful you dream of being is already inside you.
Yeah.
What is happening, and I will say this in a very pointed way because it comes down to the truth. What are you doing to keep yourself from being that person? It's not victim. Do not fall into victim mentality. It's not COVID. It's not this. It's not that. It's not election year. None of that crap is getting in your way unless you allow it. It may slow you down, but it is not getting in your way. So what are you doing to prevent yourself from becoming that shining star that you dream of being? Because that seed was not planted out of the blue. It's been there calling you forward your entire life as you step into it. So own it and keep moving forward.
Amen, brother. Amen.
So
you know, you just said essentially, like, we have to take responsibility for where we're at and what we're doing. And that's hard for people sometimes, you know, because it is easier just to say, oh, you know, the economy's bad, so obviously I'm going to have to shrink right now. Or, you know, this is happening in the world, so that's impacting me this way. While those things obviously will be true to some degree, it's still your responsibility with what you're going to do in that situation, right? And
Absolutely.
I really want to honor what you said, like, you know, like Nathan mentioned, the strategy that you gave us, which is just to do consistent work, right? And there's always going to be days that are tough where we wake up, we don't feel like working, we don't feel like doing what we know we need to do. But you just gave everyone permission to have bad days, which I think is really, really powerful, because as long as you can get up and just do something, even if you can just, like you say, tread a couple of steps forward today, you're still making progress, right? And you're still staying consistent with your journey, and you're being productive. Even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment, just do one little thing, and that's okay for today, right? Tomorrow we can hit it harder or whatever. So I really appreciate that. And I want to definitely, you know, make sure that people understand it's okay to have bad days, right? It's okay to have days that we don't feel like 1,000% and we're just gung ho, because that's going to happen. So that's amazing, bro. Definitely. I love that.
Yeah. And just like when, you know, if you're going to the gym, like, I'll use this metaphor. If you're going to the gym and working out and you're tearing your muscles down every day because you're working so hard, there's going to be days where your body just needs to recover. And so maybe on those days, and not that we're going to sit and eat an entire pizza and binge watch Netflix that day, but maybe that's the day I'd stretch, or maybe that's the day I do cardio instead, because I'm not feeling this desire to rip my muscles down anymore. I'll find something else to do that helps with lengthening those fibers so I'm not tight the next time I go in.
Yeah.
There's always something, and I can even, you know, maybe I do yoga and do some additional stretching that way. But all these aspects, it's not just about doing one thing, and the muscle doesn't grow when we're doing this. The muscle grows when we take the time to rest and let it repair.
That's true. That's true. It's a good
Yeah, that's
metaphor
very
for
true.
sure.
That's
So
very
I
no.
gotta
That's
ask you, a question, man. Just from some of my own personal desires to know, hypnotherapy and like hypnosis has actually always been something that's interesting to me, and I've never done it, right? But I
Mhm.
have looked into it, and I've considered actually doing some of that because I'm really big into personal development, and I'm big into like emotional response and this emotional intelligence that we can build. And I believe there is a lot locked away in our brains and in our memory that we just can't necessarily access. So is hypnosis something that can help with that? And then like how does that actually work? Like I don't know. Explain to me as just somebody who knows nothing about hypnosis, like what it can actually do for me.
Let me give you my card and we'll set up
Yeah,
a discovery call for that.
yeah, definitely.
Um, so yeah, what the way hypnosis works, I'm going to answer that fear first, that thing that seems like half the population, and I'll go into the rest of it. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And what I mean by that is let's say you, Corey, come to me as a practitioner, that for you to, and again, completely about control, for you to allow yourself to relax to that deeper brainwave, which is the brainwave right before you fall into REM sleep. It's theta brainwave. For you to allow yourself to relax to that point, you have to be comfortable with me. We have to have rapport. You have to feel like I understand the problem you're facing, that I understand where you want to go on the other side of it, and I have the tools to get you there. Otherwise, your defenses are going to be up and you're not going to relax. Like if you're tense and you're
Right.
worried, you're not going to relax. So as I provide that safe space of understanding and do the discovery and figure out what it is you want to go and ask those pointed questions, as the client feels comfortable with me, you'll allow yourself to relax to that place, which is a natural state of mind. And the other thing of it is you are completely in control there. You're not checked out and like, what? It seemed like 10 minutes and I was gone for, it was really an hour and 40. No, that time shift happens, but you're also fully aware through it that if something like, say we do some deeper work and this emotional thing or this memory comes up that you're like, no, I'm not ready to deal with this yet, you can open your eyes and walk out the door.
Interesting.
It's perfectly fine. Or if let's say somebody who does not believe in reincarnation and spontaneously something comes up regarding a past life, I don't lead into that. The client always leads. So if they suddenly find themselves in 18th century England telling me a story and they don't believe in past lives, we can play it two ways. Either tell me what's going on. If they don't want to associate into that story, they can wake up and leave, or just let it be a metaphor. What can you learn from telling me this story? Because your
Okay.
subconscious does so many things in metaphorical ways. It's very literal, but it also works in metaphor. So it's just playing on the field that comes up. So when we get down into that stuff underneath, the beliefs that we have about who we are and what we're deserving of, that you know they affect our thoughts, but they're percolating down here, like that the map of the image of the mind as an iceberg. The 10% above the waterline is the conscious mind, and the 90% below is the subconscious. All that stuff is percolating in the subconscious. So with hypnosis, we go right there. It doesn't have to percolate back from the conscious mind the way talk therapy would and eventually get back there. We go right in and understand what the drivers are, what that faulty subconscious programming is. And even I do a technique called parts therapy, where the part that's acting up, that's maybe causing the self-sabotage, the secret in parts is that our parts are always trying to help us. They're not trying to harm us. But at some point in our life, they took on their job as the true thing in a moment, maybe when we were 5 or 6 or 8 years old, and it stopped growing at that point. It said, oh, I can never speak up in public because maybe we said something at a party and our parents like, no, don't do that. And in that moment of shock, we took on a story that, oh, I can't say anything in public. But now at mid 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, that little 8-year-old voice is still saying, no, you can't say anything in public because you'll make a fool of yourself. It's protective, but as a 40-year-old, you don't need that voice anymore.
Right. It's not serving you. That's really interesting. Yeah, because I look at that and I think, that I think of that as identity, right? And so like, as we're moving through life, we're picking up these different stories or identities about ourselves. And then we claim that as true from then forward. But like you're saying, at other points in your life, those identities probably are not serving you any longer. They were set up as a protection mechanism. And now that experience has actually been pushed away. So the memory isn't there. So now we're just moving forward with this idea that this is who I am. And so I appreciate that. And I also see the difference too now between like the hypnotherapy and the talk therapy, because that was going to be my next question is, well, how is this different than just talking to somebody about your problems? Well, here you're actually providing that safe space and not just questioning somebody and allowing them to, like you say, be in control. So that's really neat.
The other thing that comes up with that, go ahead.
No, I was going to jump in because like when I was working with the hypnotherapist and we were thinking about it, and I was going through all these things and thinking about, we have this impression stage, right? From whatever 2 to 7 or whatever they've shifted it throughout the years. But what's happening is you're going through life as a up to 5, 6 years old. So basically you have no perspective of what life is at all. And your brain is trying to make decisions based on your experiences. So something happens to you and your 5-year-old brain makes an assumption that this is what life is like forever because it needs to figure out a simple way to go through this. And so like when our brain had no perspective, like you just think about, like if you've ever had kids and you see how they look at the world, or if I have teenagers, you watch how when they watched a cartoon that they watched when they were 5, they saw it one way. They watch it now that they're 15 and they see the Easter eggs, the jokes and everything else, right? But that's when their identity, that's when their belief was formed. And so unless you can get into a state where you can retell that story or give a new meaning to that story. It's the same story, but like, what did it mean? What did it actually mean? Or what actually happened? What was the truth? Because you told yourself, you have this imagination of a child. It's not like you don't think that octopus is that it's like everything is possible, right? At 5, everything's possible. So something happens. And with this 5-year-old imagination, you go, this is what this means. And this is life forever, unless you can get back to that point. And that's where hypnotherapy can, like, getting to that point with traditional therapy can take forever if you ever get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to mention, that there was a study done either late 90s or early 2000s by American Health Magazine. And it pops up every now and then of looking at the success rates of traditional talk therapy, behavior therapy, and hypnotherapy. And my numbers are going to be close. I haven't seen the infographic for a while, but I'll be pretty close. Traditional talk therapy was like 28% success rate after 600 sessions. So that would be if you were seeing someone weekly, 12 years, 28% success.
Wow.
At like $200 an hour.
Exactly. Behavior therapy was something like 72 to 78% success after 22 sessions. So nearly tripling the success rate, bringing it down to a 6-month window of weekly work. Great stuff. Hypnotherapy was 93% after 6 sessions, because we're going straight here. And if you think about it, anything you learn, like just even learning to drive, you thought about it first, it became a habit, that became a behavior, and now you just jump in the car, you don't think twice about it. It's just become a subconscious subroutine. So it takes a while when we're talking in the front of the brain on conscious level, it takes a while and practice and behavior change for that to really get back here and just be that thing we do without thinking about it.
Wow. That's wild just to actually hear the difference in the success rates and time as well.
You know what I call it? You know what I call it? Hypnotherapy, antivirus for your brain. It's like antivirus software. It goes in and it takes out those old, like, bad programs that have been slowing you down and clogging you up, and it can rewrite those programs and clean them up, right? And so
that's awesome.
Yep.
All right, so Daniel, I'm sold, man. So you were talking to us a little bit about this event that you've got coming up. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I'm stepping into doing international retreats this year. Here, and before I do that, here's one other nugget for the entrepreneurs listening to this. Be open to possibility, because you never know where things will lead when you're out doing your face-to-face networking, when we can do face-to-face networking again.
Yeah.
show up at those business meetings because you don't know. Back when I really started on my run a few years back, I went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting that led me to a Rotary meeting. I'm at that Rotary meeting. It's like, this isn't my room. Somebody walks up to me at the end and says, I love what you do. Like, are you familiar with the Holistic Chamber of Commerce? No idea such a thing exists. Hey, our meeting's tomorrow night. Come on out. I walk in, that's like, oh, you guys are my tribe. You're talking my language. Shut up and take my money. Let's go. That leads me to another event with that organization in Santa Monica. Sitting there in that meeting, guy taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, yeah, I belong to another organization similar, but we're having our meeting on Wednesday in Long Beach, and I think you should be there, and I don't invite lightly. Well, all right, I'm going to be there. I go to that meeting, meet the guy who has just taken over the Long Beach chapter of Holistic Chamber of Commerce. 6 months later, become his vice president. Run the chamber. A year ago, I took the chapter over from him as he moved from Long Beach to Peru to open his retreat center. And now I'm hosting 2 retreats this year there. And had you told me 3.5, 4 years ago that by going to a Rotary meeting, I was going to be hosting international retreats, I would have said you're crazy.
I can't show you, but that gives me goosebumps when you tell me
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
love
me
that,
too.
man. I love that.
I'm getting them.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the whole hindsight's 2020 in hindsight. But until you go through it, you can't see how that was
You gotta
leading,
trust the
how that
process.
was your path.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So the idea behind this retreat is called Vision 2020, is that we, on a spiritual level, and for me, I do the really grounded work, but I'll do the spiritual work too, because it's important to me. But I honor my client. If they want to come in here, or they want to come in on a grounded, it's not about me at that point. I am just here to facilitate results. But for the retreat, the idea behind it is that we, as we came into this life, or any incarnation of our lives, we signed a contract for what our purpose was in this life and what we were going to get, what we said we would accomplish. So the purpose of the retreat is get connected to it really clearly. Sometimes it feels kind of hazy, like I think I want to do something. Let's get really clear on what it is you're here to do. The other part of that contract that you signed is the obstacles that were put in the path to challenge you to grow into the person who is that successful, we'll call it the successful future self, because those challenges help you evolve to be the person who can stand in their power. So once we know where you want to go and what your purpose is, we'll go in and remove the blocks from the contract, understanding what the power is. And on the last day of the retreat, step fully into that vision of self so that you can live it and carry it forward. And, it's a week-long retreat in Peru. We're going to enjoy being in Peru too. There is one day that we will be with the local shaman all day. And for those who are interested in plant medicine, not ayahuasca, something else, there will be an opportunity to do that with the local shaman. And one day we will spend the entire day at Machu Picchu. I'm not going all the way to Peru and missing Machu Picchu. So it'll be a combination of doing the heavy lifting, but then also letting those muscles repair and strengthen so that when we leave on Saturday morning, you are fully ready to go out and realize. And then I've got some things I'm structuring on the back end of the retreat to be the support system as people go out and they're living this new life, and maybe they feel like they're stumbling a little bit because it's this new space outside of the comfort zone. How can I best support them moving forward and support everybody in the group by holding each other accountable? And that structure I just put into place about a month ago. So it's not just about going to the retreat. It's about getting help and support as you go out, continue to shine your light.
It's about the full transformation. I mean, it's so I love that. And, as rising entrepreneurs, knowing the gift, because Core Level Clarity, the company that Corey and I co-founded, is about helping rising entrepreneurs step into the gift that they're meant to be, right? And serve at the highest and best level. And so one of the things that I've done for a while, the reason we partnered up, Corey's a master at systems that help people deliver that process, right? And I'm like the storyteller, psychological side of those things, right? And so I know, like, when I help people discover their unique value in the market, right? Which is their gift. It's how that package, that contract you signed. And when you said that, I was like, dang, I probably made a huge promise. I should probably step up my game. Knowing my personality, when they're like, what are you going to do when you go down there? I was probably like, yo, I'm going to do this.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
probably need to step up. Whatever promise I made up there is probably big. But I noticed that when you help somebody step into their next level, when you go through their story and you help realign their story to oh my gosh, like this is me. I just didn't connect those dots. I didn't see, I call it putting the golden thread, right? That's how we find their authentic awesome. But when I've noticed when I do that there's this exhilaration of energy and there's this power and there's this purpose. And then there's this, how do I become this person that I know that I am, that I don't know how to be? And then those blocks come back and they're real. And so Corey and I have different ways that we're trying to move people through that process. And like me, you know, through psychology, what are the public commitment you're going to make to yourself so that you can have law of consistency? Let's use human psychology to make this transition easier for you. I don't know hypnosis, but I understand it. But when you say we're gonna uncover this thing and then we're gonna remove the blocks and then we're gonna allow you to step into this thing, I understand that that's the process. My process for doing it is longer through your marketing and through your process of living that thing. And so the power of being able to go to a place in 3 days, uncover this part of it, the gift, and then remove the blocks and step into the gift while you're in a new environment and experiencing things. Because, you know, Corey's an international traveler, right? I'm not, but we both believe that a mind expanded around something can never contract. And so when you go to new places and have new experiences, you become somebody new. And if you open up all these pathways and possibilities that aren't there in your regular environment. So by going to Peru and opening up that, just that alone would change you, make you a different person. But when it's through this thought out process to unlock your greatest self, your gift, the contract you made, and then remove the things that step into it. I mean, you can't underestimate the value that could provide to somebody's life, to every rising entrepreneur that knows that, like, my business is really a limitation of myself. The development that I put into myself, the level of my authentic awesome I bring to the world is going to be the limit of the impact that I have in the world. And here's a way to step into that gift, step into your authentic awesome in a super thought out, practical, like mind-blowing way.
For sure. So Daniel, how can we actually get access to this event?
So you can go to my website, which is danielolexa.com. And at the very top, you'll see Vision 2020, which gives the story of why I created it, how to get connected, to give the full itinerary of what we'll be doing every day. And with what's going on in the world right now, there's two things that have happened that are beneficial to people wanting to go on this trip. One is I backed the price down to make it easy. Number two, with airfare right at the moment, when I was planning this trip 6 months ago, airfare from LA to Peru round trip to Cusco was about $1,100. I booked my ticket last week for $450.
I was going to say, it's got to be insane.
Yeah.
Right now.
So it's like, and as I was checking for other travelers around the country, I was doing spot checks. Round trip out of JFK in New York was like $650.
Wow.
Like, seriously cheap. This is the time to get on board with something like this. I've been trying to find the quote. I thought it was out of The Art of War, but I haven't found it yet. It's about when everybody else contracts, it's time to step forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes into marketing. We mentioned it, or you mentioned it earlier, Corey. Like, so many people like, oh, the times are tough, the economy's bad, I got to pull back. No, that is when you charge forward. And it's like this reverse idea that when all the other armies are relaxing, you should be sharpening your sword.
100%.
And this is the way to do it. Invest in yourself, invest in your personal development, because when things get back to some sort of normal again, you will be so much farther ahead because you prepared while everybody else was relaxing.
100%. Yeah, everybody else at that point is going to be picking their head up and like, okay, what can I do now to start moving forward? But if you're doing that now, yeah, you'll be in a much better position. So everyone, go check out danielolexa.com. There's information for that event, and you said this is an annual event, so we're recording right now in March or April. I think it's April, right?
Yeah,
April.
the first one,
Yeah.
the very first one is July 19 through 25,
Okay.
and then I'm going again in December. So the second week, I
Awesome.
believe it's the 6th through the 12th of December 2020. And I'll obviously have to rename it in 2021, but
Right.
we will continue that same process of helping people to step into their vision that's been calling them forward on in some way, no matter how clear or foggy they are on it. We will get them closer to living that dream.
That's amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with everybody and really, sharing your expertise too to help people level up. I think the work that you're doing is super important and that can't be taken lightly. So definitely appreciate you, Daniel. And I appreciate your time here today too, man. We do have one more question before we wrap up. And Nathan, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so you went through, you gave us such good protection, right, against our perils and pearls. So now is what we're going to ask is one final pearl. What is the best piece of advice you would give to yourself 5, 10, 15 years ago, separate from what you gave us earlier? What's the best pearl you would leave for yourself if you just had 2 to 3 minutes to talk to yourself, in the past? What's the pearl you would leave?
Oh, wow. Let's see. If I think 15 years back, I would, there's part of me that would just want to grab myself by the collar of the shirt and smack myself and say, get over yourself. Um, I think there is a gentleness that I would want to come to my younger self and say, you are so much better than this, and believe it. Because there was that limiting story that I wasn't, even though there was this bubbling up within of like, life has got to be better. I don't know what, but life has got to be better. And if you think about it, you can't feel that moment of life can be better unless you have some idea of what it is. Something is calling you forward, whether you are aware with it or clarity or not. Because if you're just working for this company and you're miserable and that's all you know, there's nothing to cause I don't feel right. You need to have something bubbling within you to say, I could do something different, I could be better, I could be
Mm.
bigger. And I think that's honor that. And I would have said honor it faster. um, Everyone will find that space and time for themselves as the opportunity. That ensuing 15 years was the obstacles and the learning I had to go through, maybe because I was so dense I didn't pick it up fast enough, but it allowed me to become the person I am today and have empathy for my clients who are struggling through the same thing. Because evidently I really needed to learn that empathy.
That's
Mm.
awesome. I love that. I
Yeah,
love
that's
that.
so
And I
cool.
think it's a great piece of advice because right now is the time, people need to really wake up to who they truly are and what they're capable of in this world. So definitely appreciate that advice and appreciate your time, man. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys. The old rules have changed. It's not they are changing, they have changed.
Yes.
Right.
And what are the new rules we are going to write for ourselves? Because you know what? There are no rules. We think there are. There are no rules. Just
That's
go out
it,
and
man.
do.
That's it.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Our
Awesome.
role is just go out and do and work your way through not being good enough because you are that voice that's telling you that you're good enough. You don't have that by accident. The voice that's telling you like, I might be supposed to do something really, really amazing. I don't know what it is, but
You
I feel
are.
like I am. It's not an accident, right? You were created from pure potential. You are value, and a life that no one else has ever lived before has crafted you for something unique. You are unique value, and that call is real. So just work your way through it, whether it's a mile a day or 2 steps that you're trudging through. Work your way through till you understand the worthiness that you really are, always have been, and then figure out, get your hypnosis to get over the blocks, do the work that you need to do to step in to that person that you are, but you just don't know how to be yet.
And that's the voice, that one that's telling you you are good enough, that you are worthy. That's your real voice. The one that tends to be louder, that tells you you're less than in any way, shape, or form, is lying to you, and it came from other people. It's not your life. So
Yes.
live the one that's calling you forward.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again, Daniel, for your time today. We got to go ahead and shut this one off, but really appreciate you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing, helping those people level up. And I guess we'll catch you on the next one.
Fantastic. Thanks, Corey. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.